Hey everybody, I just watched 4 episodes of 2 episodes for 1 episode. It's a long story. I will see you all on the other side. All right? We good? We're good. Welcome back to Deep in Bear Country, a Berenstain Bearcast. I am your host, Phil Gonzalez, and this week we are talking about not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 Berenstain Bears stories from the CBS Saturday morning television show from 1985, 86, 80, whatever. This was from the second season. We started off with episode 1, then episode 2. These are episodes 3 and 4, which are actually 3A, 3B, 4A, and 4B. We have the Berenstain Bears tell the truth. We have the Berenstain Bears save the bees. We have the Berenstain Bears get in a fight. And to top it all off, we have the Berenstain Bears and the BIGPAW problem, I think it's called, 444. Now, I have an appointment I have to be at really soon, so I might change. My shirt might be different when I come back, just because it might be the next day when I finally record the second 2 episodes. But the Berenstain Bears. Hold on, I gotta adjust this camera a little bit. There we go. Wait, there we go. The Berenstain Bears. Let's talk about the episodes. The Truth. The Berenstain Bears and the Truth is a seminal book for many reasons. The main reason being that it is the first Berenstain Bears thing I ever recorded. I recorded myself reading the book to test my microphone. It's the first real microphone test I ever did. I recorded myself reading the book. I added sound effects and music, and the music that I used is the music that I ended up using for this podcast and have used ever since. Country Q1. Famous piece of music. It pops up everywhere else. Pops up elsewhere every now and then. Now, the Berenstain Bears and the Truth. If you recall, the crux of the book is that brother and sister bear are at home alone. They're bored. They start kicking the soccer ball around, even though it's explicitly, schmoyedly not allowed in the house. They accidentally kick and break a lamp. It scares a bird away. Mama comes home. She's like, "What happened to my lamp?" They make up a story about how the bird flew into the house, knocked the lamp over, and flew away. And of course, Mom is not buying it for a second, mostly because the Cub's story keeps changing about like what the bird looked like. Then Papa comes home. He sees the broken lamp, and he's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh my God, Papa, there was this bird." And they keep changing the story. Finally, they were like, "It's a green bird with yellow feet." "No, it's a yellow bird with green wings and blue feet." And then Papa's like, "Are you sure it wasn't a white and black bird, just like that soccer ball there?" And they get caught out on their lie. Mama's sweeping up the lamp, and she's really sad. And it's one of my favorite moments from a Berenstain Bears book, because he's like, "Look how disappointed your mama is." She's like, "Oh, I'm not sad about the lamp. I'm sad because I feel like my 2 cubs are lying to me. And I thought I'd raised cubs who knew not to lie." And it's a lot harder. Trust isn't like a lamp. When a lamp breaks, you can glue it back together. But trust is a lot harder to put back together once you've lost it. And so they admit their wrongdoing, and Papa fixes the lamp. Gran calls at the end and is like, "How's everything going?" And she's like, "Oh, everything's great, Gran." And they're like, "But Mama, you lied to Gran. Everything here's not great. We lied." And she's like, "No, everything is great because you guys learned your lesson. You learned a valuable lesson about the truth." And they all learned a valuable lesson. There we go. That's the story of the episode. Now, the episode faffs around a little bit. It spins its wheels a little at the beginning. It has a lot about brother has built a goal out of sticks and twigs, and he's talking about it. And he and sister are talking about soccer and how good he is, and maybe she's good. And he's like, "I built this goal myself. And they start kicking the ball in the house, and Mama's like, "You guys need to go outside if you're gonna kick a ball." And so they do, and then they kick a ball for a long time. Brother's goalie, and sister kicks a bunch of balls at him, and he catches them all. Then sister's the goalie, and brother kicks balls at her, and she catches them. And you're looking at your watch at this point, because we haven't gotten to the truth yet or anything. And finally, it starts getting like cloudy or whatever. They go inside. Mama leaves, and that's when brother's like, "You got lucky," and sister's like, "I'm not lucky. I could stop any." And it's weird because they just had a whole sequence. So the whole reason The whole reason they're playing soccer in the house in the first place, in the book especially, is because they start arguing about if sister could kick a ball past brother or whatever, or brother could kick a ball past sister. And so they're like, let's try it out. In this, they have to they spend all morning, all day, like hours playing soccer. And I think what happens is sister gets bored playing soccer. She wants to do something else. Her brother's like, ugh. But they spend all this time playing soccer, and then they get into the argument about who's better at soccer. But I'm like, you guys just played soccer for a long time. There's no... Because the rest of the episode is incredibly faithful to the book. Lines and beats and everything. But the book itself can't sustain the full 12 minutes or whatever of the episode. They had to, Stan and Jan had to backfill in some business for the Cubs to do. And unfortunately, it's not the most entertaining business in the world, but that's all more than made up for by the delightful animation that follows when the Cubs are trying to tell their story to their papa and mama about what kind of bird it was that knocked over the lamp. In the book, you get to see the birds drawing in several different permutations of their description, different colors, different types of feathers, stuff like that. In the cartoon, you get to see the bird change in real time as they're describing it. So they're like, no, it was this kind, and it goes completely colorless, and then it's like, whoa, and its feathers keep changing, and its feet keep changing, and it keeps growing these different feathers on top of its head. As a child, one of my favorite cartoons was the Chuck Jones animated Looney Tunes, Duck Amuck. The Chuck Jones, I almost called it Chuck Amuck, but that was the name of the Chuck Jones autobiography or biography. Duck Amuck, in which Daffy Duck is tormented by an unseen animator who keeps changing the landscape around him and actually ultimately changing his physical form around him. And in the end, spoilers for a 100-year-old cartoon or whatever. It's not 100 years old. A very old cartoon. At the end, it's Bugs Bunny. He's like, ain't I a stinker? And that's the end of the episode. But as a child, I was completely enamored of any animation that broke the fourth wall in that way, that not necessarily that directly, but there's something about cartoons being susceptible to the fact that they are imagined works of art and it being acknowledged within the context of the story that I find delightful. And that's what this episode did, because the bird is morphing and changing as they describe it. It played by those same rules, and the bird is somewhat aware that it is changing. It doesn't make any sense because this is a product of their imagination, but the bird is also featured in the episode briefly. It gets scared away, but it does say something. It says oh my goodness, or whatever, and flies away, which is not something the bird does in the book. Birds does not speak in the book. But so we get this delightful segment with brother and sister describing the bird and the bird changing, and it ends just like the book does. It's a delightful story. I am still a fan of the lesson learned. The trust is something you can't put together as easily as a lamp. I just think it's very nicely told. It's nicely illustrated. And I love the moment where Mama gets sad, legitimately sad, that her cubs are lying to her. It's not a manipulation tactic. She's not no, it's more like they look at her and she's just sad, sweeping up the lamp. And she's like, I thought I raised you better than this. And she's not trying to guilt them. She does guilt them, but she's not trying to. So, that is that. That's that. On to episode next one. To the next episode. Save the Bees. The Berenstain Bears Save the Bees. I didn't know what to expect with this one. I don't know if I remember ever watching this episode at all. Maybe I did, but there's a flower in this episode that rings a bell. But this episode is buck wild. We find out a few things about bear country I'd never thought about before, and we get to see mass murder on a large scale. So let's jump into it. The Berenstain Bears Save the Bees is another Raffish Ralph Weasel McGreed episode. And in it, Raffish Ralph is working for Weasel McGreed, as he does. And Weasel McGreed has somehow developed horticulturally a flower that is predatory to bees. And he demonstrates this to Raffish Ralph by releasing a bee into the room. The bee approaches the flower. The flower then devours the bee, killing it. I want you to remember, though, that in these books, or this show, not the books, the show, the bees in the show are characters. They have faces, they have noses, they have a queen who talks, they have an army, they wear uniforms. The bees are, for all intents and purposes, neighbors of the bears. And Weasel McGreed just kills one right off. I expected the bee to like fly out like ooh, or something, or for Weasel McGreed to be like, now it's trapped in my, but no, it's just dead. It is dead. It never comes back. So the idea is Bear Country's economy, the whole nation's economy originally is honey based. Like it relies on the production of honey, at least in the original founding of Bear Country, from the way they talk about it. Relies on the production of honey. I'm going to assume, now it's sort of simply stated they said like, honey is the basis of, and I made a joke while watching it, like the Bear Country's economy. And then they said it, like Bear Country's economy. And it got me thinking, like, if we were to say, what is the basis of America's economy? Like, what did it start out? Is it mostly crops initially grown by enslaved human beings? Like, that's the thing. Now we know, don't mean to laugh, but we know in Bear World, there was no equivalent to the African slave trade. I've discussed this many times. There was no civil war. There was the Great Bear War, but that was a fight between two bear families that sort of spread over the entire nation. It was not fought over slavery or states' rights or anything like that. It was fought over an argument between two families, sort of a Hatfields and McCoys writ large, which means that the Bear Country economy, if it started out based on, it was an agricultural economy then, like solely agricultural economy based on honey, apiaries, I guess, probably a lot of apples, that somehow spread across the country, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they always said that the Great Bear War, the origins of the Great Bear War have been like kind of lost to the fog of time. And I'm wondering how much of the Great Bear War then is based in the production of honey, the fighting for control of the apiaries, fighting for control of the bees. Who knows? The episode itself is weird. So Raffish Ralph knows that he can't target Papa for this next swindle. So he targets Mama instead. He's like, you got to target the best gardener in Bear Country. And Mama has won awards at the Bear County Fair many times for her flowers. And she's worried this year that she's not going to win because the other flower growers are getting better. There's a lot of stiff competition. And then Raffish Ralph shows up. Now, Mama's a little weirdly susceptible to Ralph's swindle in this. I would think that Mama would be a little more clued in to the fact that the last time Ralph sold them a seed or plant of any kind, it was a giant pumpkin that was going to be used to take over Bear Country, filled with weasels and guns. Also, he had a flying pizza dough that tried to take over Bear Country, and he's kidnapped BIGPAW on a few occasions. Like, the Cubs are rude to him. My mom was like, do not be rude to Ralph. We have to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, why do we have to give him the benefit of the doubt? So he says that he's working for a horticultural magazine. He takes a picture of her, and he's like, I want to put her on the cover of the magazine. You're being featured, and I work for the magazine now. And they want to feature you. We want to put you on the cover. And as a gift, they want to give you this special flower seed for a. I have what's the type? What's the flower? It has this very specific name for the honey bell flower. The honey bell flower, which Mama grows, and it wins. It wins first prize, and she's ecstatic, and everyone wants to get cuttings of this flower. It's beautiful. It's got this sort of weird face, this sort of like hidden face on it that opens up and becomes like a snapping trap, like an Audrey 2 kind of thing. But So they sell the cuttings, and everyone starts. And before you know it, there's like fields of these flowers. And the cubs are on a fence one day, looking out at the field of flowers, and then all of a sudden, this swarm of bees flies overhead, and they just get decimated, like destroyed. They're not even decimated, like completely wiped out. Like the flowers just like eat all the bees. And the whole time, I'm like, oh no! Like these are literally like characters. They're eating characters. They're killing little bees. So there's a big town hall meeting about it. No one knows what to do. They call in actual factual. And they're like, what can we do to get rid of these plants? And he's like, I've been studying this plants. Their root system is wild. This is going to be next to impossible to get rid of. These things are everywhere already. They're an invasive species. They are stronger than crabgrass. They're stronger than kudzu. We can't just wipe them out. They'll just keep regrowing. I don't know what to do. And in that moment, Mr. Deus Ex Machina himself walks in, the neighborly skunk, and he's like, what's going on? And as he walks by the examples of the plants they have set up, they die. And they realize that his stink, which apparently he doesn't have any control over because skunks just don't leak stink. So there's something wrong with his glands, I guess. You should get that looked at. They fly him in a helicopter over bear country, and I guess just have him like blast his juices all over. Like this cloud of gas comes out, and I just have this image of like BIGPAW up there holding the neighborly skunk, just like squeezing him as hard as he can, and just like shooting out gas. It kills the flowers, and they all live happily ever after. But again, a lot of bees died in this episode, and bear country has a honey-based economy. Things that we learned. All right. I got to go to my appointment. I'll be back with other ones, and the final one. Okay, I'm back. And we've got two more episodes, one more episode of two episodes to cover from the Berenstain Bears 1985 series. And the two episodes within that episode are the Berenstain Bears get in a fight, and the Berenstain Bears, The BIGPAW Problem. Now, I failed to mention that The Truth and Save the Bees were both written by Stan and Jan Berenstain. Get in a Fight, the teleplay, is written by Stan and Jan Berenstain. The BIGPAW Problem, however, is only the story is by Stan and Jan. And Bill Shinkai, who has done a few of the episodes previously, and is just another, like, more television writer, did The BIGPAW Problem. And that, I wouldn't say necessarily shows. There's a little less heart to the BIGPAW Problem than there is to the other episodes, just because it's a lot more Saturday morning-y. It's got a lot more just sort of the Saturday morning engine driving it, as opposed to the family stuff. And, we've covered this. But Get in a Fight, if you don't remember, is basically, that's what it is. It's the book. It's a first-time book about the brother and sister getting in a fight. Papa is in a bad mood. Mama's like, oh, I guess he woke up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. The kids are like, what does that mean? And she's like, well, that just means that you woke up in a bad mood. And like nothing that happens that day is going to make you feel any better. Brother and sister are like, well, that's ridiculous. But then the next day, they both wake up in bad moods. And it just sort of carries on further and further until they're like almost at each other's throats. Papa gets upset as well because he's already been in a bad mood, until finally Mama shows him that, like, this happened. Like, so it's interesting. So like the way that's basically the book. Like there's a rainstorm. Brother and sister go outside and like draw a line down the middle of their treehouse, which happens in the book. It starts thunder and lightning. They come inside, and the mama's like, look, bad moods are like the weather. Like they come and they go. Like sometimes you get in a fight. Sometimes I bet you get in a fight with someone, and then it just stays around. And then by the time by the time it reaches its peak, you can't even remember what you're fighting about in the first place. But like a storm, eventually it'll all blow over, and the storm ends, and the sun comes out, and everyone's happy. That is essentially the plot that is basically the plot of the TV episode. It illustrates, though, Papa's irrational upset a lot more than the book does, simply because we get to see it play out. And because we get to see the emotions and the attitudes played out in front of us as they arrive and as they happen. They're not simply being described or shown in a series of stills like the books do, because that's how drawings work. It's far more dramatic. It's actually, I like the Berenstain Bears get in a fight, but seeing it dramatized really shows the power that the animation can have with these kind of stories. Because even though the story is almost word for word the same thing, there's something that's so much more visceral about brother and sister's anger at each other. I mean, they literally are like grappling like with each other, and they're still grappling at the end. Mama tells them to kiss and make up, which totally offends them. She's like, "Well, fine, shake hands and make up." So they shake hands, but then they end up like knocking each other on the floor again, and like everyone's laughing. But I'm like, it's still an aggressive. It still seemed aggressive to me. But because of the way it's dramatized, you also get the effect of the storm rolling in gradually through all of this, and then coming to a head when they're on their treehouse. And if you remember, the treehouse is just a platform in the trees. And they have drawn a line down it. It starts thundering, lightning, and raining, and they refuse to leave because they're fighting over the treehouse now. And Mama makes them come inside. And they come inside and they're soaking wet and they have to change their clothes. But there's a nice build to this thunderstorm that is clearly, it's an obvious, parallel. But for a children's show, it didn't have to happen that way, but it still did. And they did a really good job of using it to propel the drama along in the episode. So that's getting a fight. Now, the BIGPAW problem is interesting. The BIGPAW problem, I've covered the plot of on this episode, on the show, because it was the basis for the chapter book, The Berenstain Bears Scouts in the Really Big Disaster, which I did about 5 or 6 years ago. I believe Casey Gellion was the co-host, my guest on the episode, and it was about BIGPAW trying to find a job in Beartown because he feels useless. He wants to do some good work around town. Meanwhile, the weasels are trying to trigger an earthquake. So you have these sort of two plots moving simultaneously. And Ralph is trying to get everyone to hate BIGPAW. I don't remember if that's a subplot in the book or not, but in the episode, it really definitely is. So what happens is BIGPAW is known for causing minor tremors in town. If he jumps up and down or anything, the ground shakes. So Ralph is trying to show the town what a horrible neighbor he is to have around. And he does so by convincing BIGPAW to come down and try to get a job and help people out. But every time he tries to help someone, it backfires and he ruins things. He ruins Farmer Ben's trees. I don't remember. He does a lot of stuff. He's obnoxious. He doesn't know his own strength. And everyone eventually gets mad at him. But they get mad at him to the degree that there is a movement then put forward to have him expelled from the town forever. He's so much of a nuisance that they're going to just get rid of him. And I don't remember if I talked about this in the book episode. I know in the book episode we talked about the fact that like basically the town rises up to attack a vulnerable member of their community, which is bizarre. But also, Raffish Ralph is far more of a nuisance to the town. Like Raffish Ralph is a menace to their happiness. And the fact that there is a legal procedure that they can follow to oust a member of the community basically into exile is wild. That's on the books. That there is a legal mechanism that allows them to exile someone who is a resident of their community. I mean, BIGPAW already lives on the top of a mountain. I guess the idea is that he wouldn't be allowed to come into the town again. Now, what happens, of course, is that this entire time, Weasel McGreed is going to exploit the fact that Beartown sits right on top of a massive fault line. And they're going to do it, and the Weasels are doing everything they can to trigger this fault, which isn't something that you can actually really do in real life. But, they're doing their darndest. And they finally figure out a place to hit the fault line underground that it'll make make an earthquake that just wrecks Beartown. And one of the Weasels does ask, what if we do that, what's going to happen to us? Like, actually, what we are underground. Weasel McGreed says, no, that's not how earthquakes work. All the force will go up, so we'll be fine, which again, I don't think that's scientifically plausible. I think the Weasels would be in just as much danger. And in fact, I know they'll be in just as much danger because they do set off the earthquake, which it actually expels them out from underground. And then they pay for their hubris that way. But also the town pays for its quick judgment of BIGPAW because he does another thing that's scientifically impossible. The earthquake is happening, things are falling apart, and the ground is actually splitting. Like, the episode doesn't really seem to know how to represent a fault line, so it's just like the ground starts splitting apart like earthquakes do in real life sometimes, mostly in cartoons. And he's straddling the fault, I guess, and there's trees on either side. So Big Paw reaches out and he grabs the two trees and he holds on to them, and he uses the trees to pull the fault, like the earth, back together, which again would just uproot the trees. Like, I'm sure a single tree's root system is not as strong as all of the energy in a massive earthquake. Like, I think that will I think the sundering of the earth itself is going to beat tugging on a tree like every time. I think that's not going to happen. But Big Paw saves the day. The weasels get their comeuppance. I don't even think Ralph gets any kind of punishment, and that's it. Remember that, though. Ralph never gets any kind of punishment. Now, in just this one episode, we discussed how he's tried to tank the economy of Bear Country and also tried to get one of their own residents exiled from their community. Like, it's just, he's the worst. And the fact that, I guess it's just the fact that he's never accidentally pulled on a vine and caused trees to get sucked into the ground, that he's not worthy of exile, but Big Paw is. So that was that one. I think that was episodes 3 and 4. Let's see. We did Mesium Turbo. I forget the man's Wicked Wheel Spell. Yeah. So that was episodes 3 and 4 of season 2, and those originally aired. The Truth and Save the Bees originally aired September 27th, 1986, and Get in a Fight and Big Paw Problem originally aired October 4th, 1986. Which means that we are coming up on, I mean, we've still got a lot. No, we've still got a lot. We still got a whole lot of episodes to go. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what I do, you could just leave a like and subscribe if you want. This is a small little thing I'm doing here. So if you want me to keep doing it, I mean, I will keep doing it. So I don't know why I said that, but it would be nice to, get some more subscribers and tell your friends and your family about me. And don't even tell them about my show. Just tell them there's this guy named Phil, and you hire me to come, and I'll come and speak at your club or at your birthday or a wedding. Just invite him over. He's got some stand-up shows that he can do, and it'll waste about 15 minutes. I can waste about 15 minutes of time. I can waste about 15 minutes of your time. So that's it. I'll be back next time with more episodes of the Berenstain Bears. There's a new book coming out in just a month or so, and I will be definitely covering that when it happens. And fingers crossed, we'll be having our collectors, Brad and Jeremy, back on the show with some interesting updates and some interesting finds of theirs. So don't worry, there's more Berenstain Bear stuff coming out. Thank you so much for joining me again, and I'll see you all next time, deep in Bear Country.